Chapter 10. Watch the Circle Grow. After the first day, I was in Ponce de Leon, Florida. That in itself is a statement if you know anything at all about Ponce. You know what I have told you, and that is the limit of my knowledge of the town. I had awakened with the sun in a new state, a new town, and a new life. The diner there was the center of activity as the locals, there must have been all of 12 of them, started to gather for their morning social. There were a couple of cars in the parking lot outside of the weathered white building, and I could see some folks walking down the street toward me. I had all of $4 in my pocket, so I went inside for a cup of coffee. There I was met by some of the most earthy and warm people I have ever known. They didn't know me from Adam, but they were all smiles for a stranger and kept my white ceramic cup full of fresh, hot Java. What more could a man ask? As I sat there watching the people as they talked, I wrote in one of my several tablets rhyming observations of the New World. I guess I've always been a poet, since I was knee-high to a buffalo nickel. Granny Samples there again. I would write and write and write some more. It was all I felt I could do. It gave me relief and an opportunity to share with nobody in particular whatever the creative muse chose to use my pencil for. I won a couple of creative writing contests back in school when I went. A short story here, a poem there. Always an exercise in escapism from a life that seemed so full of pain. Stories, every single one, in some event, usually fictionalized, in somebody's life or the world at large. As a matter of fact, you've already sampled some of my later works. So why do I write? I really can't speak of the motivations. Don't know how come I want to, must put pen to paper and create. I can tell you a little of my history and let you glean whatever understanding you might from a few facts from the Book of Ron. Somewhere around the age of 2 years, I was burned. My father, a Navy man, had just left for his ship. After he walked out of the house one morning, I walked or crawled or whatever into the kitchen and turned on the kitchen stove. I guess I was hungry. Maybe it was just a child's curiosity, but I did it anyway. Standing on a borrowed dining room chair, I set myself on fire. All those statistics that you read about in the 70s and 80s, the ones about children's inflammable clothing being not really, well, that was me, and a few 100,000 other kids as well from all walks of life, all dying or being crippled or getting scarred for life, all for the sake of $1. That is sad, my friend, and I know it. But I believe that the important thing in this life is not how we learn, but what we learn. It is up to us only to learn as quickly as we can and move on. So what does all this have to do with being happy? Simple, really. It's getting through the lesson to the solution that matters. The result of the lesson is what's important. How have we benefited from past events? This is how we measure our growth. What has happened to humans as a race is that we've forgotten why we're here. That's okay too, as long as we wind up remembering some time before we finish. As long as we, when we exhale our last breath, can look at all the lemons that we called our life and see the product as lemonade. It is my belief, and one I hope you share, that we are all here simply to be happy. Whatever else we do along the way, that's all well and good, but we've got to be as happy as possible doing it. It's a driving force in our lives. The most primal urge of all our primal urges. It's not that we're committing a mortal sin against some distant God if we don't do this thing. It's just that it's better that way. Isn't it? I also think that we want the same thing for our children above all else. We want them to be happy. Well, how do you get that way? How do you help your kids to get that way? Both answers are the same, but to find them, let's take a look at some simple logic that might help us with other concerns that we have as well. If you want to learn to fix your car, to whom do you turn for advice? A plumber? You'd better go see a mechanic if you want to know cars. If you want to fix a leaky drain, what do you do about a bad kidney? To whom do you turn to learn what you're seeking? That's right, no matter what it is that you're looking for, you turn to someone who knows what you want to know. You seek those that can add to your storehouse from their supply. In the case of happiness or joy, which comes and goes in the best of us, me included, we find it wherever it is. Just like where you go to hunt bear. You go where they are, not where you think they should be, or where they once lived. You go where they are now. So here you are, an explorer, an adventurer into a new horizon. You're forcing a paradigm shift. You're taking your free will, combining it with your desire, and applying the product to something different, something intangible. And you've already tasted your first fruits. In the beginning days of the United States of America, one settler's crop failed and his family was in danger of starving to death during the long, cold winters of what is now known as the Northeast and Appalachian areas of the nation. They knew every one of their neighbors. In fact, every settler knew every other settler in the community. They depended on them for their survival, and they shared the bounty of their harvest together, as well as their hardships. This is part of what made our country great, the sharing of the abundance of many to lift the spirits of the few. In this case, the needy ones also paid it back, but that, my friend, is a story for another day. For today, we're just talking about the ones who need. When I was burned, something changed in my life. I became virtually a ward of the state, shuffled from military hospital to military hospital, and from plastic surgeon to plastic surgeon. I've had more testing done on me than the FDA does on rats, and lots of untested procedures that didn't work. I had doctors try and try again and again on me until something worked. That's trial and error at its finest. Although there was some suffering as a result, I like to think that there was a greater good to the world at large as a result of my terror and pain-filled years. As a matter of fact, I know there was. There was because I found a key to something for which many search their entire lives. A key to my happiness, and one which I hope will unlock a new door in your life for yours. Be happy and share your joy. What is most important to us are the things which affect our lives the most. Most things are different, but one is the same. One thing we can share with others of which we have a boundless supply. One thing that we can all share that will make a difference in the lives of those with whom we walk. That thing, in its simplest form, is a smile. On the other side of life and living is death and dying. It comes in a lot of different forms, from outright murder to a harsh word spoken in haste. There are many degrees of darkness that mirror the many degrees of light, equal and opposite reflections. Where did you see it last? When did the power of the dark last make itself known to you in your circle of life? And tell me, what did you do? How did you respond to that presence? That is the key. Not if it came to you, but what you did when it was there. Take a good look around you, my friend. Look at your life for what it is and not what you think it should be. Here is where you're going to learn something about what kind of garden you've been planting. You got to look at your space in the here and now with a vision of the future in the back of your mind. Weeds creep into the prettiest of all gardens, but the observant gardener will be able to tell the dandelion from the newly planted begonias. Only by stepping back and subjecting the soil to the gardener's scrutiny will he be able to remove the life-sucking forces from his or her private place of beauty. Once identified as a threat to the carefully planted flowers and ground cover, the gardener will wade into the rose bushes with trimmer and digger in hand, feeding the beauty and protecting it with their sweat. Sure, some of the weeds will lose their home, but they represent the antithesis of the beauty that the gardener is propagating. They can also, with proper attention, be turned into mulch to feed the flowers that are in the gardener's care. It is an act of will to keep the beauty alive when there are so many weeds out there fighting for their place in this world to propagate as well. Now, there's going to be plenty of weeds. Trust me on that. What are you going to see when they arrive? Hopefully, you'll see potential mulch for an even more beautiful garden next year. Around you right now are all kinds of relationships. Working, playing, static and kinetic relationships. You have relationships with everything that has a name. Nouns of every variety. Cars, people, plants, houses, dogs, cats, horses, even orangutans. They all interact with you at different levels. This is what relationship is. Everything in the known universe has an effect on you, and you on it. Think of the night sky. Cloudless and filled with stars, it shines above you, reminding you of how inconsequential your life really is. These same stars, which men have only looked at and dreamed of for eons, simply shine on you. Where is your effect on them? Well, it takes a long time and the energies of many, many people, but we are reaching the stars today. We're starting with the moon, but as a result of the dreams of many millions of people since time immemorial, we have landed on the moon. We've sent probes into the atmospheres of our sister planets seeking knowledge about not just the planet on which we live, but the universe itself in which everything we know was given birth. And it's all to satisfy some urging of the spirit in our hearts. Many billions of dollars and rubles and francs and dinars reaching for the stars. I wonder how many of these engineers and politicians and school teachers that worked for this dream became more aware of their own joy as a result of the quest. My guess is many. You see, any time we follow our heart, it leads us to a greater peace, a higher level, if you will, a state where, metaphysicians say, we exist at a higher vibration. So what? Who cares? I don't. Now, that's not to say that it's wrong to care. As a matter of fact, like I've said before and will say again, if your heart tells you and your mind agrees, then it is the right thing for you. Period. Well, that doesn't make it the right thing for me. What was right for me, as I sat at a little table in a worn-out booth in Ponce de Leon, Florida, was to live. I stayed there for something less than 36 hours, and on the morning I left, I met a man. He must have been over 80 years old, and his mind was a rambling treasure trove of the experiences of his life. His childlike smile shook me to my bones, and I grinned back. When I went to talk to this man, who most believed had seen all of his productive years, I found the current thing on his mind was the sun. It seemed that he had to walk into the sun every morning on his way to the diner, who never charged him for anything he ever had, by the way, and it hurt his eyes. That was something I could do something about. So I told him, just sit right there for a minute, like he was really going anywhere soon. I'll be right back. I went out to my van and grabbed those drug dealer's sunglasses full of dark history and walked back into the diner. The man didn't even look at me. He was engrossed in someone else's discussion of a daughter now old enough to date. When I sat down in front of him this time, I knocked on the table to get his attention and handed him those glasses. You should have seen his face light up. It was like a kid on Christmas morning opening his eyes to a world of wonder. Yep, I could do something to help him. Now, every morning that man, God bless his soul, walks into the sunrise with a smile on his face. And, of course, so do I. Well, I guess it's time to take a break from my story, so think of something while we're apart, would you? Just take a few minutes as you go through your day and think about that old man with the funky sunglasses walking down the road for his morning cup of joe. Oh, and one more thing. You know what he said when I told him the glasses were a gift? Cool. Song of Aaron. A tender swath of copper clouds crept across the sky, heralding arriving day and swift departing night. Such a soul-sweet messenger, welcome now to all. As birds in flight await the night, we await the call of dawn's sweet song. It's morning. Come now, O glorious sun, baptize me in your warm, sweet light. A new world has begun. Hi, everybody. My name is Ron Hatton, and I am the author of A Book of Life. Now, since day one, when I finished making the book, I studied about bookbinding techniques. It was always too expensive for me to have a publisher do it for me. So what I did was decide to make my own, and the result is this. Now, this is a hand-bound copy, ribbon, paper, all of that folded by hand. And if you should like to have a copy of this for yourself or for someone you love, then all you have to do is email me at gadgetman@gadgetmangroove.com. Just watch the slide. The email address is coming. God bless y'all richly and warmly, and as always, remember to smile for a stranger today. You will both be glad you did. Bye-bye.